Hello, future designers and developers. In our last video, we were creating this website right here using our grid layout. So that was using this container, setting our columns, setting our rows, and placing our content into those different areas that we have specified. Now in this video, I want to show you how to make it a little bit more slick, not this ever-expanding kind of hodgepodge. So first, let's fix what it would look like on a mobile view. And for this, I'll show you what it looks like inside of a new window. It fills up the whole space, which is great, but we might not want it to fill up the whole space. It might not be enough content to really require that. Like this sidebar doesn't need to be this big. So let's go over to that container and let's set a max width. So the max width we'll say is never going to get greater than 800 pixels. So anytime that we go past 800 pixels, it just leaves blank space now. But we also don't want it just to fill up the side. We want it to be centered. So let's then go over here and throw in our margin to be auto. And now it should just center it on our page. So it gets a little bit cleaner. Our sidebar will never get too big. We could fill in our background if we really wanted to fill in the background with other colors. Now, what about if we wanted this to get really small? This content gets squished and we don't want it to go into that. We want it to be a more mobile-like view where we have these different things stacked on top of each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom of my CS over here, and I'm going to add something for what happens if our display is smaller than, we'll say like 500 pixels. So let me, what we want to do right here is that we want to say what happens with our media when our media changes. So if we're viewing it on a website as opposed to if we are viewing it on a cell phone. So if our media only screen, and so if we're on a screen and it's only the screen output, we only have one screen, we want to set a max width for that. So we set a max width for if we're viewing it on our web browser, on our desktop, that we set a max width. So now this is if we are using another screen, smaller screen, and that only has a max width of, we'll say 500. So we'll go max width is equal to 500 pixels. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna throw inside of here, this is basically a whole nother kind of CSS. So if we have this situation where we're on a screen that has a max width of less than 550 pixels, we wanna change how our grid looks. So we're gonna go into that dot container again, and we're going to then say our grid template columns is going to be equal to just 1 FR. So the entire thing is within that 1 FR. And then what we're going to do is we are going to throw in, and it hasn't changed yet because we haven't placed our things inside of the grid yet. This is a new grid. We're going to do our grid template rows. We're going to have them all stacked on top of each other. So they should all just kind of be, we should have 7 of them, right? And we're going to start with our nav bar being pretty small. We'll do that at 0.2 FR. Then our next row will be our sidebar, which is going to be a little bit bigger than our nav. So we'll do 0.3 FR. Then let's do our main is still going to be our largest. We'll do 0.5 FR. Then we've got content. We want all of those to be the same. I'll do 0.3, 0.3. 3 FR, 0.3 FR, and then our footer at the bottom will be a 0.2 FR. Okay. So this is still, our screen is smaller, so we're making these fractionally smaller, but we want to place them in a different order. So what we are going to do here is now set up that grid template areas. Cool. And then inside of this, our very first row, what we're gonna have, we'll throw our nav in first. You can see we got that wonderful nav bar there. Then we're gonna throw in our sidebar. Then we'll stack on top of that our main. Then we have content 1. I'm just gonna copy and paste that and change it to our content 2 and our content 3. And then finally, we will throw in our footer. Cool. And now it is all, when we get smaller than that, we have our display kind of snap back and forth between these two different looks, where we have our sidebar over on the side versus on top, and then our main kind of shrinks down too, and we get a stacked flow instead. So this is the beginning of writing a responsive website. I hope that was helpful. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.